pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start with open forum. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address the city council on items that are on or not on the current agenda. Items requiring council action may be deferred to staff or boards and commissions for research and future council agendas if appropriate. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you conduct yourself in a professional, courteous manner and refrain from the use of profanity. Failure to abide by this policy may result in the loss of your privilege to speak. I believe we have a couple people who'd like to speak. Raise your hand if you'd like to come up. We'll start in the very front. If you want to come up, give your name.
My name's Eric Torgerson. Live on Euclid Avenue, right next to Kettle River Boulevard.
Okay.
I got a concern. I'd like to see if we can get that speed limit lowered from where it turns from 40 to 55.
Yep.
There's not much for a shoulder there. A lot of people are walking with new development there. There's gonna be a lot of kids trying to get to a park. One's over at the Lions Park. The other's at Fireside Park. It's about the only reasonable way to get there. The kids are gonna be riding a bike, people walking their dogs, going out for a jog. I don't know if this was possible, lowering the speed limit, maybe widening the shoulders, but if you could take that into consideration, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
If we can have city staff research that, or Chief Bauer.
And staff there has been some, just recently, the state of Minnesota has finally completed some local guidance and regarding, for continuity and speed limits for municipalities. And I know Mr. Erickson and I have had some conversations on that, but there is some necessary procedures to go through that. Mr. Erickson, I don't know if you want to speak about that in any greater depth.
Yeah, and I think you summarized it pretty well, and I know that document has come out recently, and just maybe even a little bit further step back. The cities did not previously have, or counties for that matter, have the ability to set speed limits. It resided with the Department of Transportation Commissioner, and obviously delegated to staff. But that was something that previously required a speed study to set those speeds, and they would often do those, and they typically set those speeds based on the 85th percentile of what traffic utilizes the roadway. And so oftentimes that resulted, after a speed study, is raising the speed limits in most cases. And so we were always cautious in speaking to residents and council members who requested these speed studies, just that they're aware that it may very well go up, because speed limits typically are again posted at the 85th percentile. And so artificially lowering them oftentimes results in maybe a false sense of security for pedestrians and other things. And so there's a lot of research and thought that has gone into that. Recently, Mr. Linwood had indicated that the state legislature did modify that. That does allow communities to set speed limits, and you'll see some communities that have lowered their local roadways to 25 miles per hour, for instance. But again, what the caveat with it is that there is a logical reason why you do that, and there's a policy in place, and that there is some level of study that would allow that. And so we, again, we've been waiting actually for a couple of years, I would say, for some of this guidance to come out. We do now just have it here recently. I haven't delved into it myself, but it's something that we know that this isn't the only request that we have. This is one of the roadways that we had identified that we did want to evaluate and look at. Greenway is another. And so there's a couple of them that we will be looking into. We're just have to dig into it, and it's a little bit more of a process than just changing the speed, but we need to go through a process of developing a policy, and then also that policy might likely have some level of study that goes into it, whether it's a speed study or something like that. But certainly that is something that's on our tasks to do, and so I appreciate the comment, and something that staff will certainly look into and report back to the city council on what direction they would like to go with.
Okay. Did you leave your contact information? So maybe, okay, perfect. Maybe Mr. Linwood, as we go through this.
Thank you.
That would be great, and keep coming back. So that would be perfect. Okay. And we have in the back. Neil, we know who you are. You still have to state your name.
Hi, I'm Neil Reaver. I live at 2467 dark area, as you probably know, because it's mostly farmland still, at least in back of our house. So Gregory started to operate. Now, what I want and I would invite all the council members to go over there at night and look at the property. Okay? Please do, because it is operating. So we didn't really know what to expect. So what it turns out is the lighting on the building, there's 12 lights on the west side, 12 on the east side, 8 in back, and 22 lights in front. 22 lights in front. And there's 2 floodlights, which are LED lights, in front pointed at the building. Okay? We've kind of discussed this with Fred. So what Fred had them do was try to baffle the 2 floodlights. Now, that hasn't really done the trick, okay? Because they're very bright lights. Now, the code calls for the building inspectors to come out and use a light meter on those 2 floodlights. And they're supposed to be lit 0.4% candle lights, or 4/10. Believe me, those lights, if checked, are way brighter than that. They're about the most bright lights you can imagine. Okay, so we'd ask them to go out and check those lights. Now, the other issue, I have to say, you know, when he first lit it up, because you're talking about 50 lights on one building, because, you know, that's one of his things. I mean, he's a contractor and he uses lights in his work. So it's a showroom, so he wants to show the neighborhood all 50 lights, but it's a very dark neighborhood, okay? So the bottom line here is I checked we wanted to find out whether he has a permit for the sign lights. I don't know if he does. Fred's not here, because generally the city may specify the hours any sign may be illuminated. The hours of illumination may be specified in the permit or any time during the life of the sign. Illuminated signs shall have shielded light source. The Gregory contracting sign in front of the building is illuminated by 12 lights most nights. And the question is, when is he gonna turn them on? He's kept them on all night long. So we have a total, and some nights we have a total of 20 lights pointed at the building all night long. So that's the problem, and we need to have it checked. You know, the city has the ability to, he only works till maybe 5 or 6 o'clock. So the city can tell him to turn off the sign lights after that. I understand he wants the spotlight on his building for a little while, he wants the advertising, but it's a dark neighborhood. The second question is, there's been no screening put up. Now, if you'll remember, when this was approved, he didn't want to do any screening. So far, he hasn't really done any screening. He's got 6 little trees. So, no screening on the north, no screening on the west. And if you go by there, the building's lit up all night long.
Okay.
So, I'd hope the city council does try to deal with it. At this juncture, we're gonna have to put in screening, because the light is too much. You know, it's a dark neighborhood, we're right next door. I haven't talked to the other neighbors, but I'm sure they're bothered by it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reaver.
Thank you.
Mr. Linwood, can we have Mr. Wack?
Yeah, I know Mr. Weck has had some communications with Mr. Reaver and Ms. Christensen over this, just regarding some of the timers on the lights, the shielding on the lights, and some of the landscaping plan prior to this. But certainly, Mr. Weck probably would be the best staff member to
Yeah.
speak on behalf of this. So
Yeah.
certainly we can have him listen to Mr. Reaver's concerns tomorrow, and we can have him communicate and let the council know kind of where the permit stands for the landscaping and all these other items on the
And
building.
did they just open? They haven't been open very long, I
Not
don't
too long,
think.
no.
So maybe they're still working through stuff. Okay, if you could let Mr. Weck know and then maybe
Yep, I
report
certainly
back
will.
to all of us would be great. Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Monska, I know you wanted to wait till the very end of the meeting. I know. No, you can come on up. It's fine. Just giving you a little heck.
Okay, I deserve that. The county board has made our citizens forum the
Yeah.
last item, and of course, that's pursuant to the advice of council, but I'm hopeful that we can still go back to a time certain. I don't think there was anything wrong with having it at 7 o'clock, the citizens like to come and know when they can speak. Okay, so I have, I brought the minutes and agenda for this meeting commit this week, last 2 meetings I've got here. Basically, we're just proceeding with various issues. We have not yet scheduled a meeting to start working with the negotiating people on the armor, because there's things that have to happen for updating. I'm gonna be sitting in on the negotiating in place of one of my colleagues who's down in Florida, full-time, so we can expedite that, so I'm hoping that that gets scheduled pretty soon. Certainly, the county very much wants to have the best 911 system ever. We deserve to be safe. We want it as good as we can afford. And so I think that the current system is phenomenal, and somehow we worked it out, and I'm sure that we can do it again. As I indicated, last time we had a tax increase, a gross tax increase of 3.3%. And due to the great growth in this city and in tax capacity, so I'm not talking about inflation of home values, I'm talking about new growth and new businesses and homes. Perhaps that increase is actually a net negative, thanks to Wyoming's efforts in large part. Certainly this year, again, we're looking at trying to constrain our spending as well as much as we can, because of the vagaries of the home real estate valuation market. Our values of our homes went up significantly, the business valuations did not. So the homes are now paying, due to the state law that governs how taxation is done, are paying a larger share, a larger proportional share of the bill for local services, including whether it's the city, or whether it's the county, whether it's any of the other local units of government. So we would certainly, we are continuing to try to work with our representatives to see if we can get this fixed, particularly in Chisago County, where we're a border county. I think that the state needs to look at how we are having to compete with Wisconsin, which has a totally different system, and how that affects the burden on our homeowners. At one time, many years ago, there was a governor who did something called the Minnesota Miracle. He was on the cover of Life magazine. And at that time, there was a big change where businesses paid the largest share of homeowners' burden. That Minnesota Miracle has become somewhat of a nightmare now. So we're certainly looking at what we can do to constrain our spending. We know that the city is doing the same, and I applaud your hard work in providing great services at the best possible price. Is there anything I can do for this city council that I should be working on?
I have a couple things.
Yep.
Could you please make sure that Mr. Linwood and myself are on, at least CC'd on when those meetings are gonna be regarding armor?
I will.
That'd be great. And then Senator Cran called me and mentioned that the county is now asking for some bonding money. Do you know what that's about? We haven't been able to connect.
Okay, I think that this is a miscommunication by one of my colleagues. I understand that somebody on behalf of the county, which is not authorized, well, that I was surprised to hear, is saying that the county is pushing the interchange on Interstate 35 and 400th Street in North Branch. And that is certainly has not been the position of the county board. That is not a project that we're pushing. I think it may have come from, I guess I don't
Okay.
even though I read the press reports like you may have been, I think it was a county press, and I was concerned about it.
Yeah, I just know Senator Crane called me and said he wanted to discuss it, because we obviously have a big bill that we're working on, our bonding bill that we're working on, so,
Well, you know, roads are an important thing that we need bonding
Yeah.
support for. This might be a good year to do that. However, I think that the senator is well aware of the concerns that the county board has,
Okay.
or most of the county board has. I would say 4 out of the 5 would agree with what I said.
okay, great. Members?
We respect everyone on the board, and I know that people represent different parts of the county, and I appreciate the excitement and the enthusiasm of all board members.
Yeah, okay, thank you. County, members, do we have any questions?
No questions,
No?
thank you.
All
Also
right.
ask if we can make sure that Chief Bauer's on that email too for the Army.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chief Bauer.
No worries. Either one or the other. Okay, so we'll look at times and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be great.
We're working on it right now, and then we're gonna figure out what works with us, and then we're gonna see what works with our partners.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Madam
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so open forum is done unless anybody else wants to speak. Nope. All right, we'll move on to number 1, approval of minutes. Consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for January 16th, 2024. If there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve by member Luger. We have a second by member Schilling.
Yep, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So passed. Consent agenda, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Does anybody wish to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve consent agenda 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by member Onstad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So approved. Acknowledgement, receipts of reports of officers, boards, commissions, and department heads. Does anybody wish to pull a report from 11, 12, 13, or 14? Seeing none, we'll move on to communication. Number 15, Mid-Continent City of Wyoming Compass Lake Boulevard Project Update. Mr. McFarland, Mr. Erickson, Mr. Linwood.
That'll be myself, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
This is just something, just an update for the council. As you know, earlier this year, the council approved a project for what was identified as the Compass Lake Boulevard project out on Highway 8. And I just wanted to give the council an update that that is completed. Through that project, the total cost of that project was approximately $166,000, which the county was so gracious to contribute $60,300 through their ARPA funds and fiber broadband upgrades, and so 30% of the costs, and then Mid-Continent $99,000, so 60% of the costs, and then the city of Wyoming contributed 10%, so $6,700 of the cost. I'm happy to say that that project is now completed. It is up and running, and we actually have residential houses already on the Mid-Continent system now, but it'll also, for those homes there, and obviously as we look at the upcoming project on Highway 8 to open that up for other economic development properties,
Yeah.
or economic development opportunities, excuse me.
Mr. Linwood, do we know approximately how many houses do not have broadband now? Does that almost cover everybody?
Don't have a number. It is filling in. I think Wyoming is one of the most served areas within the county.
Yeah.
I know some Fish Lake example did a big project to get that, and I know the county's been working with a lot of our townships and other cities to complete that. But we do have some small pockets here and there. Just north, the council did approve another project just north on 61. There's still a few pockets up there in that area. There are a couple of areas still out on Highway 8, but for the most part, that's really it. It's fairly nominal. I know that Mid-Continent last year worked on some projects on Wyoming Trail. So in regard to that fiber service, we're really in a good position comparatively to a lot of our counterparts in the county, but I think that is obviously improving drastically by the work of the county and the other cities making that a priority.
Awesome, thank you. Questions from council?
No questions.
All right, seeing none, we'll move on to new business number 16. To consider the hiring of Derek Heath for the police officer position with a tentative start date of February 26, 2024. Chief Bauer?
That's me. Mayor Iverson, members of council, requesting authorization to fill a vacant police officer position. Our hiring process, we posted internally. We had, I believe, 3 internal candidates that were eligible for the position. Identified Mr. Heath as he successfully completed everything to become an officer for the state of Minnesota. He has a law enforcement degree from Rasmussen, and he's been a reserve with our department for just under a year, I believe, and recently was appointed to the reserve cadet officer position. He's a valuable reserve, and we're excited to get him started as an officer with our city. Recommending that he starts at the initial pay rate based on the police officer contract, $31.60 an hour. That's the 2023 rate. And we would look to bring him forward to City Council, probably the first council meeting in March to be sworn in.
Chief Bauer, is this a part of the grant funding that we received and to help recruit?
The reserve cadet program was, yes. So
Yes.
he was entitled because he was a reserve cadet. He did receive tuition reimbursement.
Yeah.
As a result of that, we do have an agreement with him that he will work for the city for a predetermined amount of time, or he'd have to pay that money back. But yes, that was a successful implementation of that.
Just had a conversation at the League of Minnesota regarding that. So
Yeah.
some other cities that were looking to implement similar to what we have done.
Yeah, a
So
lot of creative ideas out there.
Yeah, fabulous. All right, questions by council member Yeager.
How long does he have to work to not have to pay back?
3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Member Schilling,
No questions.
member Onstad,
No questions.
member Luker.
Also no questions.
All right, we need a motion to approve the hiring of Derek Heath for the police officer position with a tentative start date of February 26, 2024. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by member Onstad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 17, to consider resolution 240214, a resolution to approve the purchase of a 2024 Polaris Ranger XP and mat tracks for Wyoming Public Safety in the amount of $57,916.80. Chief Bauer?
Yes.
You are so on for this meeting, right? Twice?
It felt like a lot.
It-
I know. And all the consent stuff. It's a lot
I know,
of,
it's just crazy
it's a lot
tonight,
of
right?
me. So as right now, the fire department uses a 2007 Polaris UTV that primarily responds for wildlife fires. So we have a significant portion of Carlos Avery wildlife management area in our city, about 3.2 acres. And then we are also mutual aid for a lot of the other areas around, whether it's Forest Lake, Linwood, all the other areas that have Carlos Avery in it as well. The 2007 UTV that they have has been slated for replacement with unfortunately the tires on it and the system itself does not go over down trees. It was stuck in one of the last fires that they had, and they had to rescue it out of there. So it no longer is as useful as hoped. The Polaris Ranger is the XP 1000 is specifically created. They have a firefighter package for this specific purpose. Working with Polaris, it arrived at a pricing of $39,345.24. That includes, it's basically completely outfitted. The only thing we would need to add is graphics. Throw a sticker on the side of it at some point, but that's a minimal cost. Delivery time is about 7 months, so we're quite a ways out on receiving that. In order to navigate the areas in Carlos and other wildfire areas, these mat tracks are the best way to do that. It allows them to traverse better areas and navigate much better. Looking at a variety of different options, mat tracks was recommended for this UTV, and we checked out pricing, and this came in at the lowest price option. It's a Minnesota company and was recommended, like I said, from Polaris. Initially, we had this slated for the CIP. We determined that we could use this public safety aid money. It is an authorized use of that money for fire, and we could purchase that with these funds. The current 2007, we would determine the disposition to that at a later time. Once we receive the new one, we would determine whether or not there may be some buyers interested, other government agencies, or we would look at selling it via auction. Kind of depends on the market at that time. So in total, looking at the UTV, as I mentioned, just over 39,000, and the mat tracks come in at $18,274.56, and those would be paid for that public safety aid fund. Any questions?
So I'll go first on this. What I'm trying to understand is having both, right? Can you explain again the difference between this versus the difference between the two?
Sure. The biggest difference are the tracks.
Okay.
And just the longevity of these devices. We're going on, what do we have, about 15, 16 years at this point. Just the replacement cycle for these devices and maintenance. And the tracks make a big difference for being able to navigate over down trees and those type of muddy areas. Yeah.
Okay, so we're basically just replacing, is what you're
Yes,
saying,
correct.
but newer, better, obviously, however many years.
Correct.
Things have changed. Okay, that's all my questions. Member Schilling?
This is gonna sound like a weird question, but I'm assuming the mat tracks are gonna stay on this unit permanently, correct?
You can swap them.
Okay, you can.
For the most part, their primary response is wildfire, so they
Yeah.
would intend on leaving them
Okay.
on there. If you needed it for a pub ed event or something, night to night, they want to bring it out for that, you leave the tracks on there. You would swap it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my other question you answered, and that was if it's fully equipped, because I saw the price on it, obviously, naturally, and I was like, is all the other stuff included in this?
Everything's on it. It's road ready.
All right, that was it. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, Member Yeager?
Can those mat tracks be used on a road?
To cross a roadway, you wouldn't want to use them on long-term, driving to a location. This would be you'd have to trailer it.
That's what I was
Yes,
gonna say,
correct.
and we have a trailer to.
We do have a
trailer.
trailer. The hope would be that our current trailer, it fits on it. If it doesn't, we'll have to address that at that point. But we'll have to, we need to get it to make sure one way or the other.
And if we need a trailer, can that also come out of the
Correct.
police aid?
Yep, it's slated on there.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Member Luber?
How long do you anticipate that this will be functional for us? The other one lasted quite a
It did.
few years.
Yeah, and we maxed probably at the end of that. I mean, you can think 15 years is fair. It's a long term. When it's used, it's important to have, but it's not something you used every day.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Member Onstead?
The 2007 unit, depending on the age, what we would get for it, is there any possibility that we would keep it, use it as rather than have to take the mat tracks off, on and off the new unit? Is there any possibility that we'd keep the old unit based on its value?
It's a possibility, so we have a little bit of storage issue. Right now, there's nowhere to put it, honestly, whether it's PD or fire, we don't have anywhere to store an additional, another trailer and UTV. When it comes to that time, we'll kind of determine what the value is, and at that point, if it makes sense, but that's not our intent right now. We don't want to maintain additional equipment that we wouldn't utilize on a regular basis.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So we need a motion to approve Resolution 240214, a resolution approving the purchase of a 2024 Polaris Ranger XP and mat tracks for Wyoming Public Safety in the amount of $57,619.80. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Schilling. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 18, to consider a proposal from WSB Engineering for the Railroad Park Project Phase 2. Mr. Erickson, or Mr. McFarland? Okay, thank you.
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, Phase 1 of Railroad Park, that is the Veterans Memorial portion of the park, was completed in late 2023. As you can recall, likely, the construction of Railroad Park was planned to be carried out in 3 phases, with the second phase being the History Rock portion of the park. For Phase 1, the city did utilize the services of WSB. That was for public engagement, planning, and then construction administration, among other things. And it's with that in mind that the city has continued to have discussions with WSB, this time pertaining to the second phase of the park. Through those discussions, WSB has put together then a proposal for their services, once again, now with phase 2 of the park. That would include final design, bidding, and the construction administration, once again. And that total for the proposal has come out to $28,000. This item was brought forth to the Park Advisory Commission at yesterday's meeting, and the Park Advisory Commissioners discussed it, and then unanimously voted to bring it to council with the recommendation for approval by formally the council. So this item's just before you today, and looking for your input and direction.
Mr. McFarland, just a couple questions. What does it all, what are we're putting in the bricks? Can you just explain again what is left to put in there for that 28,000?
So the 28,000 will be for so the phase 2 of the project, now the history walk. So
Okay.
the bricks was part of phase 1, and those
Yep.
are continuing to layer in as more are ordered from residents
Yeah.
for.
But isn't there a history walk though too with some bricks? Am I that was years ago? Weren't there some bricks or
I
something?
don't believe that we did based on the approved design of it. There was a pathway
Yeah,
for that history walk portion where
yep.
this piece of the project is more for the history walk, the stage area, and
okay,
some of the continued electrical and other items within the project of the park, and then that stage 3 kind of completing some of the area and brick wall, but that would just be the main components of the second phase.
okay, perfect, thank you. I wanted to get to the PAC meeting last night and didn't have a chance, so apologize for that question. Okay, questions from council members? Member Luker?
No questions.
Member Onstad?
No questions.
Member Schilling?
I just had one question. What are we looking at for a phase 3 final completion? What is the final completion date of everything? Do we know off the top of our head, or?
For the
For all
entirety
three,
of
the
well, and
entirety of the park,
I think
yeah.
right now we basically have significant funding that will fund this second portion,
Okay.
and then a portion of phase 3 we need a little more funding to add to that final stage. So at this point in time, the project has been strictly through donations from our businesses and our residents, and then also some funding from the Minnesota Legacy Fund. So that I think has been the intent through the project, just to keep raising those donations and go through that, unless council had different direction to staff than that we wouldn't stay on that same track. But that's right now what we've been continuing to do. We're hopeful that we can complete the final donations and that we would do phase 2 this year, and then completion being next year on phase 3 if the funds are available. That is certainly I think what staff's goal is to work towards, to try to work and keep stopping to try to get some of those final donations to complete the park.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to see it just keep progressing as we go, so I'd like to see the finished product, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. Member Yeager?
So the 28,000's coming from donations?
Correct. That would be that's the intent right now. That's where they'll have been coming from for the project.
Okay, but then I see in the memo, they're talking about the funding for phase 2 would come from donations and the park dedication fund.
Should just be Marlon, I think maybe just an error.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that was just my misunderstanding
Yeah,
of
it's
the
strict-
funding.
It should be strictly just that it was the Minnesota Legacy Fund, which we received the $100,000 grant and the donation, so we wouldn't utilize park dedication dollars on this.
Okay, so park dedication was a typo.
Yeah, maybe just accidentally inclusionary, so.
Okay, that's what I was curious about. Thank you.
All right, we need a motion to approve the proposal from WSB Engineering for the Railroad Park Project Phase 2. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Onset. We have a second from Member Schilling.
Yep, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 19, to consider Resolution 240215, a resolution approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisements for bids for 2024 trunk, water main, and force main improvements. Mr. Erickson, is it finally your time?
It is finally my turn.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yes, I've been on the edge of my chair. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. As you may recall, you had previously authorized the preparations of plans and specifications for this trunk water main crossing of I-35 from the existing water main near the water tower westerly to Kettle River and south a short distance, approximately 700 feet. And then the project also included the upgrade of the force main from the Kettle River and East Viking, I'm sorry, Kettle River and East Viking intersection. Just south of that, there's a lift station that discharges southerly and then ultimately east underneath the freeway. But that segment between the lift station and the portion that goes under the freeway is undersized as we look to it in the future. And so we need to change the size of that force main from a 4-inch to a 6-inch. And a portion of that project is through pipe bursting. The other portion is directionally drilling underneath the river. We have to have 10-foot clearance underneath the river. And so certainly a different type of project than we typically had in the past, so a little different types of construction techniques. And again, the trunk water main process will involve jacking a casing pipe underneath the freeway and lining, putting in a pipe through that casing pipe. And so that's a 12-inch trunk water main. I should note that those funds for the water main portion of the project, at least partially, are through the American Recovery Plan Act funds, which need to be utilized here in 2024. Is that correct, Mr. Linwood?
Need to be designation right now, not utilized.
Okay, so just a little background on that, but again, the plans and specifications have been completed. We have a permit in hand from the DNR. That was a process a little bit to get that, and so we wanted to wait to bring this forward until we had those things in place. And so at this point, we are requesting approval of plans and specification and authorization to advertise for bids.
Thank you. So when it goes underneath the highway, obviously, or freeway, are we stopping traffic? I'm trying to envision how that works.
Yeah, so it is there'll be a pit on either side, and beneath there'll be a pipe that's jacked in and augured the material out from under,
Okay.
from in it, and then the pipe will sleeve through it essentially.
Okay.
So there will not be any open excavation through the highway, of course. So it'll be all trenchlessly constructed with
Yeah.
a pit on either side. So
Okay.
really pretty neat type of process. And as we get to that process, I'd be happy to share with any council members that would like to see it and
Yeah.
share a little bit about that. It's
That-
a little different than what we typically see here.
Yeah, that would be great. And I know that I'm excited about this because we really do have an opportunity for growth out that way. So I think that this will be a big help. So thank you. Member Onstead, any questions?
questions.
No questions. Member Schilling?
No questions.
Member Yeager?
No questions.
Member Luger? Well, that was easy. All right, we need a motion to approve Resolution 240215, a resolution approving plans and specifications, ordering advertisements for bids for the 2024 truck water main and force main improvements. I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luger. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 20, to consider a City of Wyoming Council work session on February 20th, 2024. Mr. Linwood?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Staff is requesting on, or prior to our next council meeting on February 20th at 5:30 that we go through 2024 goals and initiatives. We've been working with our commissions and boards to get their goals, to bring those to council. As we do this activity every year, just to make sure that it's a good opportunity for the council and staff to just direct our work priorities and make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward with some of our ongoing goals and maybe some new things that if council members have ideas or priorities that they would like to see within our 2024 work plan and beyond.
Okay, and that's at 5:30, so before our meeting?
Correct.
At 7? Okay, did everybody check their calendar? We're good? Everybody's good? Okay, we need a motion to approve the work council session for February 20th, 5:30 PM. Do we have a motion to approve? Member Luger makes the first, I'll make the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so approved. Number 21, to consider a City of Wyoming Council special meeting on February 13th, not Valentine's Day, 2024. Mr. Linwood?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. Once again, staff is requesting a special meeting to continue our negotiations with both of our bargaining units within the LALS group and for patrol and sergeants, and then also for our International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 49. Staff is requesting a work session on Tuesday, February 13th at 5 p.m. To review updated bargaining proposals and get direction on those negotiations from the council.
Okay, did everybody check their schedule?
Is that
Yeah,
5
I'm
p.m.?
not available that day.
5 p.m., you are not available? Okay, anybody else? We're good?
I was on the other one.
You may have a conflict, when will you know?
I'm gonna try to work around.
Okay, it's not going out to Valentine's Day dinner.
It's not.
I'm just teasing him.
Will this meeting be
It'll be
closed?
much more fun than that disappointment.
It would be,
So-
under statute, correct, it would be a closed meeting, yes.
I'm available.
You're available?
Yep.
Okay, so, when will you know, Claire?
I should be able to figure it out by tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
So, you know what, just, yeah.
So go ahead and
Yeah,
then we'll
yeah,
still
yeah.
have enough. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we need a motion to approve the Wyoming Special Council meeting for February 13th, 2024 at 5 PM. I'll make the first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 22, so why don't we do our council, do we want to do that first, our
That's-
council reports?
That's fine, that's appropriate.
Okay, so what we're doing is 22 is going to a closed door, to a closed session. So what we'll do is we'll give reports, and then from there, we'll recess for about 2 minutes to
Do we
have
want to
everybody.
do agenda item 23 first?
I would recommend that we stick with the agenda and do 22 first.
We're gonna do agenda item 23 after the closed meeting?
We would come back into open meeting and then do the last item,
okay.
yes. That
Got
would be
it.
that would be the recommendation from staff.
Okay, all right, so let's do council reports. Let's start with member Luger.
I attended the, Chisago County Sewer Commission meeting. That's all I have. Thanks for attending.
Thank you. Member Onstad?
I attended the Park Advisory Committee last night, and thanks for everybody coming out.
Okay. Member Schilling?
I have no report, thanks to those of you that came out tonight.
Okay. Member Yeager?
No report. Thank you for coming and thank you all for watching.
I also attended the Joint Sewer Commission meeting 2 weeks ago. It goes so fast. 2 weeks ago. And that's kind of all I have on my calendar for that last 2 weeks. So, all right, we are going to, thanks everybody for being here. We are going to take a 5-minute recess before we go into